All right. Good evening, Bangalore. And big thank you to our marketing team for giving us a slot right before the bar opens up. Thank you, marketing team. We've got an assurance, of course, with the marketing team that if we are going to continue, being between you and drinks for more than 60 minutes, we'll ensure drinks are between us. Okay. With that, I would really like to welcome Jonathan and Muneer. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. They're both flying in from London, all the way from London. And before that, we saw Jess giving a talk who flew from US. He gave a talk. So this is truly a multi-region event. And I'm sure all of us can have some consensus on that. No pun intended, right? So before I really get into the introductions for Muneer and Jonathan, I really want to set up the context on why ISVs are just so important to us, or the independent software vendors, right? Selling databases for a long period of time, there are just two ways that enterprises look at databases is if they've got their own internal applications that they've built, where they own the code, and the process is relatively simpler or challenging, depends on the organization that you're working with. The application owner will go to the enterprise architect and say, this is a new application that I'm building, and these are the service level objectives, and this is what I want to achieve. And the enterprise architect is going to suggest a couple of options, and the application developer ends up choosing something from there. Things become very challenging when it comes to ISV applications, because there the organizations absolutely don't have a choice of what database to choose. And the applications have modernized at such a rapid pace. The user expectations have modernized at such a rapid pace. But the underlying systems and the engines, which is mainly the databases, they are yet to modernize. And that is where partnering with modern ISVs, such as Ory and Teleport, has become a great outcome, not only for us, not only for them, but mainly for our end customers. They are able to achieve very stringent service level objectives, near zero RTO and zero RPO kind of expectations, which we'll talk about that. So before that, maybe we can just start with a quick round of introduction. So Muneer, if you can let us know what you do at Teleport and what problems Teleport is solving, and then we can move on from there.
Thank you, Tejas, and thank you, the Cockroach marketing team. This is a fantastic event. Muneer Taskar, I run growth for EMEA and APAC for Teleport. Teleport is basically modernized privileged access management. We don't like the term privileged access management, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But basically, your infrastructure needs to not only be secure today, it needs to be future-proof, and it needs to be ready for sort of the age of agentic AI, right? So we are infrastructure security for the most paranoid. Right, and then obviously, if we are infrastructure security, we are frontline access for your developers, your engineers. We can't afford to go down, for our very very large customers, which is why this partnership with Cockroach works great, where the database that backs us is basically unbreakable. So that's how this partnership works. So really happy to be here, and thank you, Tejas.
Perfect.
And likewise, thank you for having us here, and thank you for the Cockroach team to invite us here. In terms of Ory, if Teleport is kind of the internal security, we are the external. So we focus on customer IAM, and we take also a modern approach to ensuring that your services and applications are not only secure, they are resilient, they are based on modern architecture, but most importantly, from a customer perspective, you have an easy access and safe access for those customers. So, we're providing the front door for those customers, and that's what we do.
Perfect. That's great. So I can draw a lot of parallels between Ory and Teleport. Of course, one of them is both of you support Cockroach DB as a data store, so we can go to market much, much faster. But what I understood while I was reading a little bit about privileged access management, identity access management, is this industry has been around for a long while. Though it is growing at a 20% CAGR and it's a massive industry, it's also a very crowded industry. There are a lot of small players, a lot of large players. I would love to understand, from Muneer and yourself, Jonathan, on how are you competing with some of the legacy providers, and what really sets apart Teleport and Ory as a modern alternative to existing systems like Keycloak for identity and CyberArk for Teleport?
How are we better than CyberArk? Okay, how much time do you guys have? Because we could spend like go till midnight. Okay, so I'll focus on sort of three key things, right? Fundamentally, traditional PAM, and I won't single out a single vendor, but fundamentally, traditional PAM was about making sure you managed your secrets better. Access was based on secrets, static tokens, usernames and passwords, shared keys. Good Lord, I shudder every time I say shared keys, but just so you know, most leaks happen there. Anyway, so a traditional PAM is about helping you do a better job managing those secrets, right? Nothing wrong with that, yesterday. But our approach is that you should just throw all those secrets away immediately. We want you to be completely secretless and more secure, not less secure. So we want you to be completely secretless. So that's the first difference that we have. We are completely secretless. All of our security is based on short-lived, cryptographic identities that we issue. And that is tied to a real world attribute. Like, so if you're a user, it's going to be based on, a biometric that ties into the credential we issue. If you're a server, an HSM chip, if you're a laptop or TPM chip. So it's real world attributes, a strong identity based on a real world attribute. That's the core of our security. And then everything is short lived. All privileges are ephemeral. That's how we fundamentally differ from traditional PAM, right? So that's, difference number one. I promise these are going to be I'll go only maybe top three. Right. The second key difference, to understand the second key difference, we have to understand why rogue workloads are able to run. Rogue workloads are able to run on your networks because of anonymity. Right. So if you take anonymity away from your network is inherently secure. This is a concept we call trusted computing. And our networks are not secure today because we have silos of identities. We have silos of everything, data, which you guys are solving for your customers. But, we have silos of identity enforcement, policy enforcement. So fundamentally, there is an anonymity in compute. The key difference between Teleport and its traditional competitors is that we have a single source of issuing identity to everything. One unified identity issuer for your developer, the laptop they may be running, the servers they may be accessing, the apps they may be firing off, all the way down to the workloads that are authenticating with each other or getting fired off of different parts of your network, right? So we have a single source of being able to issue those identities. Anonymity is gone right there. So you're more secure. Also, this makes you much more auditable and your regulators are a lot happier. That's the second thing, but secondary. But main thing, that's... And third, and this is the key, this is the reason we're growing so fast. This is the reason we have 600 customers and growing. It's because developers are happy using us, right? We do not fundamentally believe that security should come at the cost of developer productivity. All the traditional PAMs add workflows, add complexity to your life as a developer. We take it away, right? So that's a fundamental difference for us is that if you, for example, if you talk to a developer who's had to manage Kubernetes security with one of the traditional PAMs, and then you talk to them, after they started using Teleport, you literally get it's the best thing since sliced bread kind of smile, right? So that makes us happy. We like making developers happy. So those are the top three differences, Tejas.
And from an Ory perspective, and again, I can echo probably a lot of what Muneer's just said there, but if I go back 10 years, Ory was first created on the back of frustrations with legacy solutions that are out there in the IAM market, and actually they're still out there in the IAM market. And I'm sure there are some platforms around that people are using right now that still follow those legacy principles. But our founder and still CTO had a major frustration trying to implement one of these legacy solutions for IAM, and ending up, as all good technologists do, saying, I think I can do better. I think I can build a better way. I think I can use more modern languages, more built in a more composable way to make identity not just a feature, but an enabler for an organization. So how do I give my customers better access? How do I give my customers more secure access? So by adopting the most up-to-date standards and being able to give a more composable option to being able to deploy. So what you'll find with legacy is often it's a big black box that someone sticks under a desk somewhere and it does its thing. But if it goes wrong, how are you going to deal with that? Or if the people that have deployed that leave the business? How are you going to deal with that? So Ory, we're very proud of our open source foundations. I know there are open source foundations around the rest of this room. But what that gives customers is an insight into how Ory runs, in an insight into how the software is developed, and that then underpins everything that we do through our commercial work. So it's developer friendly, it's easy to deploy with multiple deployment options, and giving a modern approach to managing customers and partners and external identities alike.
So that's great. So developer friendly definitely resonates the most, because you have to maintain a fine balance because of getting someone inside the gate versus ensuring that person is legit or not. So you have to maintain a very, very fine balance of developer productivity as well, right? So that's a good segue just to understand, Muneer and Jonathan, if I were to consume Ory or Teleport, how would I consume it? And would it differ, or would you recommend a different approach if I were a large enterprise versus a startup?
So again, there's two elements to this, what you're going to deploy and how you're going to deploy it. So again, we also passionately support open source. So we have an open source version. We have a community edition that is available to use for free for smaller organizations. And then we have obviously the enterprise version with, better features and more support. So, we encourage small organizations who are below the threshold, who qualify to play with the community edition, use it in production. Sure, that's great. As you pass that threshold and come to the enterprise edition, the main distinction for Teleport would be, are you on-prem or are you cloud or are you hybrid? And us as security, we can't really dictate those terms. So we are more about, okay, are you primarily an on-prem business? Is your development and is your engineering stack more hybrid, or are you purely cloud? So we have to support all three. And, we are, again, this is a major distinction, sort of differentiator for us, is that we have zero feature incompatibility. We have full feature parity between our cloud SaaS version and our on-prem version, right? So that's important to us. So we offer our customers all three options, right? On-prem, cloud, as well as hybrid.
Perfect.
And for us, we have three deployment options. So obviously, being open source and our foundation being open source, we have many customers that first start to research and look at and play and even deploy with our open source. We then have our commercial model. I think we are unique, certainly maybe on this stage, we're unique in terms of not only are we a partner of Cockroach, but we're also a customer as well. So we practice what we preach. We consume Cockroach in order to be a foundational part of our commercial SaaS offering. But we've also identified a very clear need in customer demand for those customers that still want to retain control and own their own IAM. So not just a SaaS model, but we have kind of a middle model that allows customers to deploy the Ory software in their architecture, but we support it with a full enterprise package that enables them to get access to our team, to be able to answer any production issues or quality issues that they may have, but retain that control. And particularly in compliance-driven markets, I know some of our anchor deals have been with some of the larger fintechs and banks in the Indian market, where that compliance and data residency issue is very present. And you need to be able to have audit in a very easy way. You've got the RBI breathing down your neck saying we need to measure and understand how you're managing customer identity. That ability to be able to manage it yourself in your architecture, but have full support from the Ory team is really what's driving. And actually what we call the Ory Enterprise license, in combination with Cockroach, has now surpassed our SaaS offering to give that control to customers.
So what I'm hearing is run anywhere.
Yes.
On-prem, on-cloud, hybrid, all sorts of deployments.
Absolutely.
Right? So coming to my favorite topic and our customers' favorite topic, because we've got a lot of fintechs and banks also in the audience, is around compliance, right? So of course we have two major regulators. One is SEBI, which is the Securities Exchange Board of India, and RBI. In some form or the other, they've come up with certain cyber resilience frameworks, which really, really ensures that no matter if there are your internal customers, if there are your internal employees, if there are contractors, you really need to figure out ways on how people are securely understanding and accessing the systems. And of course, there is DPDP Act around the corner, which is going to also put a lot of pressure on compliance. How are you seeing at Teleport and Ory respectively some of these shifts, which are really you are interacting with some of the Indian customers? What are some of the learnings and what are you seeing in the industry?
Well, I suppose luckily in Europe, we've got this little thing called GDPR, which when it first came out, everybody was pulling their hair out, but for all the right reasons. So we take compliance very, very seriously. And from our perspective, we build it into the software that we deliver and the solutions that we deliver. So when it comes, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to highly compliant environments, and it doesn't have to necessarily be banking or finance, but that's typically where that starts. You have we can provide a very, very robust set of workflows and set of feature sets that allow customers to be able to hit those compliance targets, to be able to provide audits at a real fine grain level. And I've seen several customers that have huge, great big Excel spreadsheets of compliance that they've got to have from various authorities. And Ory really does help speed up that and power the auditability of their solutions.
And one use case that we've seen together is collapsing different identities of different solutions, because if you work with a large bank over a period of time, they've got different identities for wholesale, lending, retail, rural banking, whatnot, right? And now they are all getting collapsed into a single identity, which is what Ory is also helping drive.
Exactly. We're helping simplify that.
Yeah, I mean, completely echo everything Jonathan said. And what we believe is taking our customers one step further, which is to say that, compliance a lot of times in tech companies is seen as this box checking exercise, because we assume that our customers, like whether it's a fintech or a bank who's say regulated by, whether it's the FCA or whether it's, the RBI, it doesn't matter. But we don't want to enable you to just check boxes, right? Let's look at some industry stats, right? 70% of all attacks today are identity based, which means they are entirely preventable. They are not technological weaknesses, they are human weaknesses. But what is the average time to basically detect and investigate an attack is 11 hours, right? That's the average time. So what we want our customers to be able to do is to be able to do that in one click. Like, can we have a whole access graph in one click shows you exactly what happened and who did it? So if we've given you that capability, automatically the auditing that RBI requires or FCA requires or SEC requires is there, right? So we encourage our customers to look at the audit requirements not as something that is as a checkbox, but as something that makes them sort of proactively better at what they do. So I don't ever want to hear that a Teleport customer took 11 hours, right? Because now you have a feature, one click, and you can just see the whole access graph, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen just immense importance of the privilege access management system, because if I want to really solve something and if I'm not able to log in as a principal engineer to get things done, it's just not going to solve the purpose, right? Absolutely. So when I was drafting the questions, I thought I had a very smart question and a very smart joke ahead of it, which is no discussion is enough without AI, or no discussion is good enough without AI. But I did see that getting used a lot, so I'm not going to use that, right? But what I definitely understand, Jonathan and Muneer, is the agentic AI traffic is through the roof. And I think Jess was saying that it's just so challenging and difficult to understand whether it's an agent logging in, or it's an identity of an agent, or an actual human being. And a lot of these things are just getting so much blurred. How much of pressure that is putting on both Ory and Teleport, and what are your customers thinking about that?
Yeah, it is putting pressure, I think, and there is a lot of noise out there when it comes to agentic. And we kind of boil it down at the moment to two simple operations. First of all, you really need to understand a good bot from a bad bot. And looking at Spencer's diagram, you can exponentially draw that diagram into infinity almost, because that's where it's going. But you still, as an organization, you still need to know who's good, and who's bad. The other aspect is authorization. So once you've identified the agentic AI agent, then you need to authorize them to do the right thing. And that also goes into kind of the LLM world as well, where you also need to be able to authorize the large language models to go into your organization where they're allowed to, rather than just scraping data randomly from all departments and kind of coalescing into one area. We're finding that customers are saying we need our LLMs to be active in one area only and really focus there and give them access. So again, through the modular approach that Ory provides our customers, we can give that. So authentication of agents and authorization.
So from an infrastructure security perspective, and by the way, you can tell infrastructure, these guys are wearing snazzy jackets, the infrastructure guys here in a t-shirt. But from an infrastructure security perspective, think about AI as in two ways, right? One is AI inside your organization, and then AI attacks from the outside. So let's look at inside, right? The main thing is you don't want, so today people are coding up, prototypes, spinning up agents, without the real expertise of knowing how security applies to it, right? And you cannot control this. This train has left the station. So any security professional that comes and says, no, wait, I'm going to write a manual on how to build agents, and then that will become gospel, is behind the times, right? That train has left the station. So the ratios that, Spencer had a really cute diagram. I like that one. But today we are expecting that ratio to go from 50 to 1 to 500 to 1 to 1,000 to 1, which is basically agentic to human ratio will go to 1,000 to 1 in the blink of an eye. So the only way to solve for that is to make sure that agents and humans both have the same kind of strong cryptographic identity, so that everything is, all your policies can be enforced and everything can be audited, right? So that's on the inside. AI from the outside is a very interesting challenge. Now, why do I say that? See, back in the day, only state-sponsored bad actors or, actual cyber criminal gangs had large resources to launch large attacks. Because of the ability to develop agents, 4 disgruntled teenagers sitting in one of their mom's basements now have that same power, right? So which means things like zero trust, networking has to be taken much more seriously, right? So basically that means that we have to think about how many attacks are going to happen at one time. The democratization of large-scale attacks because of agentic is we have to worry about from the outside. And then all of this, like I said, as long as we are issuing identities to every agent that we know, inside we are safe, and from outside we have to do just double down, triple down on zero trust networking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think agents are real, and who knows, someday red pill and black pill will also be a big reality, right? So talking about resiliency, I think that's a good topic. I do believe because these are such tier 0 applications, resiliency is a baseline. Like you need to be absolutely resilient. But the thing that really differentiates probably Ory and Teleport is scale. You work with some of the most demanding customers. And I think this whole agentic AI, which, as you were suggesting, that there'll be just so many bots and there could be an AI SRE, right? Who's going to log in and solve your problems. What kind of scale have you seen with some of your largest customers?
We've got one joint customer. They're a small little startup called OpenAI. I don't know if anyone's heard of them, and they have a solution called ChatGPT. I'm sure it'll take off at some point in the future. And the challenge they faced was they needed to scale. They needed that. We called them the 10x team because every time they came to us and said, "We've achieved something, but now we need to 10x it," and then they'd achieve that and they need to 10x that. They came to us and in partnership with Cockroach. The challenge they faced was that at the very early stages, and we're only talking a year, 18 months ago, they needed to get to 2,000 logins per second for ChatGPT. They couldn't do that with their existing solution. Their existing solution was a legacy solution. It was a well-known market leader. I'm not going to name it. If you come and speak to me later, I might name it. And they'd been working with them for 6 to 9 months, getting nowhere. They came to Ory. and the combined solution that Ory and Cockroach provided enabled the ChatGPT to be able to get to 3,000 logins within 6 weeks. That then very quickly went to 7,000 logins. We're now currently supporting 100% of ChatGPT logins, which is 800 million, over 800 million a week. And that is down to the modern architecture that the combined solution can provide, the fact that we can scale significantly. And don't get me wrong, it does keep us awake at night, and they're on the phone every single day. But it's just testament to the modern architecture that comes from both Ory and Cockroach.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership, and Muneer, now we need a bigger customer than that.
Well,
Sorry.
Definitely bigger in real world revenue, but so I mean, there's more than. So I'll give you a combination of scale and resiliency as far as our joint story. Not so much throughput, because bear in mind, infrastructure security is not transactional, so we don't. Throughput is not that much of our challenge. Our challenge is actual geo failover resiliency, and so our joint biggest customer has a playbook that you have to satisfy to be able to get on their network. That has 4 nines and 5 nines in places that you really don't want them, and it's really difficult. So there's no way that we would be able to do that without Cockroach as the backend database. So it's very simple, right? We provide the best-in-class security, but we are only as good as the database that we sit on, right? So we can't afford for the database to go down at all, and so Cockroach is a natural choice, and we can hit those metrics for the largest transaction processor in the world.
Perfect. That's great. So at Cockroach Labs, we do see this ISV engagement and this ecosystem engagement as a very strategic go-to-market pillar for us. I would love to learn a little bit about how has been your experience partnering with our teams, jointly going to the customers. What has been your experience so far?
Okay. So, I mean, fundamentally, you guys are best in class. So nobody has yet asked us, why have you picked this database? They do ask us, why does this cost that much more? But that's a different issue. We'll come to that. But nobody has asked us, why have you picked this partner, right? So because we are selling to very tech stakeholders, right? Infrastructure security, everybody knows you are best in class. So it's very straightforward, So that's in that sense, there's not that much upselling to do. Our stakeholders understand, why, if that makes sense.
And for us, I think it's a compelling story. I think the match between Ory and Cockroach provides customers a really not only a compelling story and a compelling answer, but a future-proof approach to both resilience and scale. And when we talk about scale, not everybody needs scale. I would love to have 10 open AIs on the customer book, and who knows, we may get there. But other customers need that flexibility, and again, that's what the combination of Ory and Cockroach does. Provides that flexibility for customers, so that as they grow, we can grow and provide them that ability to do it.
Perfect. And lastly, both of you have very large customers, not only in India, but also in APAC. And both of you were on customer meetings on this trip as well. I would love to learn a little bit about what are your future plans? How do you plan to invest in this region? What are your plans?
Well, for us, and thank you to the previous speakers who've made me rest a little bit easy. No, we already know that India is a huge market, and for Ory, it's a growth market for us, a strategic area, a strategic region. We're already deploying. We already have boots on the ground in terms of resources. I'm currently interviewing, as we speak, for more go-to-market. So it is really an important market for us. We see the transformation that the region is going through, not just India, but APAC as well. And we see the hunger for transformation. And that excites us. And we believe we've got a strong proposition. And I think, again, in collaboration, I think we can answer most, if not all, of the questions that are being asked.
I have to echo that. So, Kiran from AWS, the sort of growth metrics that he was talking about, 5x in demat account, 7x in insurance coverage. At the end of the day, for us, what that means is compute is going to grow. Compute is provided by, TINs. So we secure TIN, we secure infrastructure. So we see that growth curve. and we would be stupid not to want to be a part of it. So we definitely want to be part of that. We are on that, and so we're investing, and we will, look to more partnerships like with Cockroach, and we will all jointly grow here.
Perfect. And thank you so much, Muneer and Jonathan, for this great partnership. A lot more to go, a lot more logos to land together. And I would just like to end by saying that don't just migrate to Cockroach TB, transform with us, right? This is a transformational opportunity to change fundamentally the way that you've done in the past and the way you're going to do it in the future. So we would love all of you to transform with us. Thank you so much.